Paradise in trust. Maintain them we must. Paradise in trust. Tapestries at Melbourne Airport. The 6 tapestries that form the Paradise in Trust series at Melbourne Airport are now still at the airport. They have changed positions from being more prominent in the International Arrivals Lounge to being taken down and kept in a storage area for some time, and now 5 are back in the Arrivals Lounge and 1 in storage. The 5, though, aren't in positions that are easy to view. My aim in following their trails with a passion is to maintain a strong interest in their heritage and promote the idea for others to see and appreciate the great works of art that they are. They should be displayed in places for many to see and should be more accessible. The tapestries in the suite are titled Paradise in Trust, with each of the tapestries representing the different regions of Victoria. Leonie Besson was the designer of the suite. I met with her via Jenny Newman, the front of house coordinator of the Australian Tapestry Workshop, and I was able to go and visit the Australian Tapestry Workshop at the same time in South Melbourne. This step meant that I met firsthand the creator of these 6 tapestries that I love so much. The work is intense for the research in undertaking this project on the tapestries at Melbourne Airport, but I made a personal commitment to them when they disappeared from their original position on the wall in the International Arrivals Lounge at Melbourne Airport. I would stand and gaze at all of them, particularly at a time when my husband would be travelling back and forth from Malaysia in particular to Australia. His flight would come in about 4 a.m. and taxis were difficult to catch if you only wanted a short ride fare, so he would request me to be there at the airport. This was a big ask, but originally the car park situation meant that I did not have to walk far from the car to the terminal. Usually you could get a drink of coffee and then I could wait until I could see his smiling face. Relief and majesty are all entwined here with the experience of looking at such bright, vivid beauty in the tapestries compared to the drab environment of the airport surrounds. The 6 tapestries were woven during the era of the Victorian Tapestry Workshop. They now reside in the International Arrivals area, 5 at least anyway. 1 has been put away in storage. I don't know who makes these decisions, but it's been done currently. They are also very important tapestry works that they should all be on show together. I have followed their trail with a passion since I joined the Melbourne Airport Community Aviation Consultation Group that was set up by the federal government in 2013. When the tapestries were taken down in the main hall of the Arrivals International Lounge, and no one seemed to know their destination. I used to haunt the management team at the time to find out where they'd gone to. Amazingly enough, no one could give me a straight answer for some years.
I'm sorry.
As a former librarian, researcher in media, I'm always interested in how collections and maintenance, in this case tapestries, are first designed, then woven, then maintained. They were commissioned when the Victorian Tapestry Workshop existed, and now it's all under the umbrella of the Australian Tapestry Workshop. The Tapestry Workshop website is www.oztapestry.com.au. And the quote there is, "To enjoys an international reputation as a leader of contemporary tapestry production." Established in, the Victorian one was, in 1976. Its only workshop of its kind in Australia and one of only a handful remaining in the world for the production of hand-woven tapestries. They carry on the traditions of their sister workshop, the Manufacture des Gobelins, located in Paris, which is best for supplying the court of the French monarch since Louis XIV, using time-honoured techniques employed in Europe for centuries. The workshop's skilled weavers work with artists to produce tapestries that are known universally for their vibrancy, technical accomplishment and inventive interpretation. The Australian Tapestry Workshop, also known as the Victorian Tapestry Workshop prior to 2010, was established by the Victorian Government in 1976. The suite of 6 tapestries is entitled Paradise in Trust, with each of the tapestries representing the different regions of Victoria. Leonie Besson designed the suite. Jenny Newman, as I said, front of house coordinator, Australian Tapestry Workshop, and this workshop is in Park Street, South Melbourne, introduced me to Leonie. As quoted in the Age article, the art of progress and discovery when the planning of the international terminal began, the Federal Airports Corporation wanted to include an art collection that presented a feeling of Australia, but made a feature of Victoria and the theme of the air travel. They always looked magnificent where they were displayed originally, a feast of glorified artwork. Now, of course, their viewing is restricted. The FAC had wanted to include an art collection that presented an Australian story and images of Victoria for the Melbourne airport. The art consultant in the FAC at that time was Jean Battersby, who commissioned the artist to produce a collection of works that stood up well in a large building. Ms. Battersby said she looked for artists who had a lot of internal strength and colour in their work that could make an impact in a large space. The suite selected, undertaken by the Victorian Tapestry Workshop, spent a year weaving the tapestries. Each piece is 1.8 metres by 4 metres and took 3 people to finish the tapestries. 150 kilograms of Australian wool was used in the suite in a palette of 370 colours. The Dandenongs, the Murray River, the Mallee, the 90 Mile Beach, Gippsland Lakes, Tower Hill, the Great Ocean Road and Mount Buffalo, as well as the Great Divide, are all featured. Leonie undertook a Master of Art in Tapestry at the Royal College of Art. She was a graduate of the Preston Institute of Technology. One of her major works was also the making of the Arthur Boyd's new Parliament House tapestry in a talk Leonie gave in June of 2023. The design of Parliament House in Canberra was won by architect Romualdo Guialdo in 1979 and created the opportunity for the commission of a major public artwork. As an eminent living artist, Arthur Boyd was offered the chance to produce an artwork that would cover almost the entire south wall of the reception hall. Extensive discussions ensued about the best medium to suit this. The massive scale of the work, an astonishing 9 metres in height and almost 20 metres in width, makes it the second largest tapestry in the world. It was woven in vertical sections by 12 weavers over a 2-year period and remains the most ambitious tapestry the workshops ever produced. Scale and tapestry was decided on as the ideal choice. Leonie talked about her work and the completion of the Arthur Boyd's tapestry for the new Parliament House in Canberra. She was the weaver in charge of this tapestry. As to the suite of tapestries that I'm talking about for Melbourne Airport, here, when working with Melbourne Symphony Orchestra, which is what I hope I'll be doing, hopefully will result in a project to develop the importance of heritage values of airport materials. For me personally, it is about respecting and publicising the 6 tapestries that had disappeared from public view for some time, and now they're back in the International Arrivals Lounge, but not many people see them. And 5 out of 6 are on display. One assumes the 6th is in storage, but why the one tapestry was segregated, I'm yet to be told why. There have been many attempts by me over the years to have them on show. One of my emails is titled Tapestry Exhibition. The aim was to have the exhibition of at least one tapestry from this suite on show here in Keilor. At the time, I'd contacted a representative of Melbourne Airport Corporation and asked about dimensions, how it'd be exhibited, such an upright stand, etc. All the details you could imagine. I'd also double check that they had clearing or are clearing the legal and insurance matter when all this was going on. Another part of this planning was to contact a local school that would have the facilities to have such an exhibition. My first response was there is a great deal of interest from the communities in this region. This was also done on behalf of Keilor Historical Society, who would organise this project. Before I proceed with this part of the project, it's important to establish the work I did on the CAG Committee for Melbourne Airport. The CAG Committee for Melbourne Airport, Community Aviation Consultation Groups, were established by the federal government in 2013 at all of the major airports in Australia. The Melbourne Airport Committee was established in that year, and I was asked to take part representing the southern region of the airport. The committee only had 3 representatives at the beginning, representing communities, 1 for the east, 1 for the west, and 1 for the south. I had previously taken part in the Brimbank Noise Abatement Committee. The CEO at the time at Brimbank Council, Nick Fower, was the person who nominated me for the CAG position. So off I went, and the first meeting was in the management offices of the airport over at Tullamarine. What an adventure or series of challenges there have been over that time. I liken the committee work as often the most distressing experiences when you had to go to different locations and there were members of the public there, but you weren't allowed to speak. Only the chairman and the management committee team could speak. The worst was at a place called Ultima in Keilor, whereby you had the CAG meeting, but there were at least 25 individuals there who were all observers watching your every move. The other intimidating element was that you were being recorded, which is something we had not been told about at the beginning of all of these meetings. The horror story goes on, but I'm not going to dwell on this to conflict with the magnificence of the Paradise in Trust and how these works of art have gone through their own traumas of being hidden and concealed, but now at least they are being shown in an area that some people, international arrivals and airport staff see. Back to the beginning and the understanding of where these works of arts were created. The Australian Tapestry Workshop was first known as the Victorian Tapestry Workshop. That was prior to 2010 and was then established by the Victorian Government in 1976. The location being Park Street, South Melbourne, in a National Trust Heritage listed building. The workshop is known around the world as a leader in contemporary tapestry, collaborating with notable Australian and international artists. There are always other examples of magnificent works of art, and recently, that was July 2023, I learned about the Triumph of Fortitude, a Belgian tapestry from about 1525, which was on display at the Walker Art Gallery, Liverpool, UK. But the key here for me is that it's an example of how museum collections are preserved and cared for, but importantly how they are shared with the wider communities who can see these works and admire them. The Melbourne Airport collection has been shifted about and now are situated only 5 out of the 6 in the International Arrivals Lounge, and very few people see them. I know firsthand, having come home from a trip from overseas, and you are pushed and whisked into the arrivals area after queuing for passport processing, etc. Then you have to push to get your cases and luggage. No way are you looking or interested in artworks on the walls of this communal space. It was back in 2018 that I got confirmation from an airport staff employee. But at least we know that they exist, end of quote. This was an exasperating moment because, of course, I knew that tapestries existed and they had been displayed in the hall of the international arrivals area. And that's the game or the intrigue that has gone on for many years for these wonderful works of art. It was in 2022 that the next vital question was attempted to be solved, and that could I see where the storage area. I asked, where was the storage area for these tapestries? Removal and procurement and all such keywords were used, but the bottom line was no one was saying the exact location of the tapestries. Even questions I'd recorded were, are these still hanging up in your lounge room? And also, I don't have any idea where they went. I was asked perhaps to contact our aviation team, the airport manager. Frustrating indeed. In between all of this, of course, I learned about the Australian Tapestry Workshop, who've built up a worldwide reputation for the creation of contemporary tapestries in collaboration with living artists and architects. One of the most significant moments in my experience with these tapestries was on the night of September 11 in 2001. I had to go to the airport to pick up my husband, who was working for a newspaper in Malaysia. This meant an act of devotion on my part, as the flights did not arrive until about 4 a.m. That's the flight John liked to catch, or it worked in with his work schedule. So on this date in September, the attack had taken place, and I'd been watching West Wing, so it was hard to tell what was real, what was surreal. I spoke with my son to confirm what I'd heard in the news coverage. There had been 4 coordinated suicide terrorist attacks carried out by the militant Islamic extremist network Al-Qaeda. There had been 2,977 non-hijacker fatalities and indeterminate number of injuries, in addition to at least $10 billion worth of infrastructure and property damage. The targets had been the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, US Capitol or White House, and the list goes on. I personally felt an utter amount of despair for all that was going on, but I had a mission, and that was to go out in the dark and get to the airport to pick up John. Now on the flight, he was on there, but had heard no announcement of the attacks. So when I saw John, he was completely unaware of these global tragedies. But what I saw as a complete glimmer of hope and beauty was the sight of the 6 tapestries in the arrivals lounge. There they were, hanging resplendent and secure and faultless in their grandness of colour and composition. They were supreme to remind you that their creative security could inspire you still through this hideous time of our world history. Leonie Besson and the other wonderful weavers entwined their magical powers into these 6 tapestries, representing the different regions, as I've stated before. Not a lot of arrivals into the country would notice these magnificent artworks now. The Malay tapestry is only to be seen going up an escalator into the admin area of the arrivals component of the Melbourne airport, as one example. You can visit the Australian Tapestry Workshop, which is based in South Melbourne, and during the visit you can see the weavers working. Since 1976, the Australian Tapestry Workshop has built a worldwide reputation for the creation of contemporary tapestries in collaboration with living artists and architects. Over 47 years, they've woven more than 500 tapestries. These now hang proudly in different public and private collections, nationally and internationally. The workshop is unique to Australia and one of only a few workshops remaining in the world dedicated to hand weaving. Contemporary tapestries in creative partnerships, working in a broad scope of art forms, challenge our tapestry weavers to experiment with interpretation, colour, techniques, as well as work with specialist dyer, create new yarn tones. Tapestries, known for their vibrancies and technical accomplishment, are the workshop's hallmark and have established their position as the centre of excellence and innovation. An important element to emphasise is an extract from Art and Airports. Over the past 5 years, the board of the Federal Airports Corporation in Australia has added new definition to the disparaged term airport art by commissioning major works by leading artists for all its new international terminals. That was the text by Dr. Jean Battersby. In the introduction of this publication called Art and Airports, Barry Murphy, Managing Director and CEO of Federal Airports Corporation, encapsulates why I've strived to achieve for the showing of the tapestries at Melbourne Airport so that they're seen by more people. Currently, as I've said, they are in the arrivals lounge, 5 of them, and when you get off the plane, you're not looking at the wall space, particularly after a long international flight. The quote by the director is, "For visitors to a foreign land, an airport can be their first impression of the country and its people. Cold and impersonal airports can present images of equally cold and impersonal countries." At the Federal Airports Corporation, we've worked hard to ensure our airports portray the true warmth and depth of character of Australia. This publication, Art and Airports, further publishes the text covering how many travellers passed through the airports in 1995. But airports are vital to the national survival and prosperity, states the author, Dr. Battersby. The FAC had an aim of creating modern complexes that reflect efficient travel facilities and to see airports as attractive places to visit. Promoting a distinctive national identity begins with its airport, was said, and in 1990 the board of the FAC decided to give its new terminal something of the distinctive flavour and style of contemporary Australia as seen through the eyes of the artists. It's important that the public see the tapestries rather than being on show in positions in the Arrivals International Lounge, where people arriving from overseas, for instance, could see 5 out of 6, but hardly in positions that warrant their attention after long flights and where the lighting may not illustrate or support their viewing. Imagine that people's intent is just to obtain the correct case from the carousel. They're not interested in looking at artwork. Even though these artworks have colours that are vibrant, each has a title and a story associated with it. And in 1995, the 6 tapestries were woven at the Victorian Tapestry Workshop. As I've said before, the place that I always stood myself, looking at upwards at the other side of the handrail, holding and waiting usually for my husband who'd be arriving from an international flight. There they were, all in their vibrancy, and I could sip on my takeaway coffee and view their magnificence. As quoted in Craft Arts International 96, airports are unlike normal corporate premises. They are huge public buildings with big crowd flows. The scale is large, perspectives are long. There are many conflicting visual elements such as signage, advertising, flight information, bulletins and retail displays. As quoted also in Craft Arts International article, that you're not catering to an informed gallery audience. Visitors include large numbers of international tourists with widely different cultural values. So we've taken a deliberate choice to please and to interest rather than pursue the cutting edge of contemporary art. Originally, the 6 tapestries were all displayed on a high grey wall, and as was stated at that time, the decor being very muted, mainly grey. So FAC, etc., decided to stress colour in fairly high key. The Melbourne management was keen to emphasise the character of Victorian the artworks and several of them relate to this theme. Now only 5 can be seen by only travellers, and some of the airport staff working in the international arrivals being there, where they can be seen in their true glory and magnificence. This is my plea: bring them out to the public, and my sincere aim for these artworks to be shared by numerous other people, those that come to Melbourne Airport or visiting or picking up family and friends. Let them share. Let them share these wonderful, stupendous works of art. Yours sincerely, Susan Jennison.